between the top nations.
Their third-party partners, they work closely with a number.
So there's an obvious tension between the two superpowers. Is this the comeback of the Cold War, Lily?
Well, I certainly don't think so. I think what we witnessed is more so like a parody on the Cold War. If a Cold War in the past gave us James Bond, I think now we can have a cartoon or a nice segment on Saturday Night Live. If a Cold War was a serious thing, it was about ideologies. Now it's not about ideologies. It's about ego of leaders and about some kind of national ego and pride, and it doesn't amount to anything that looks like a Cold War. If the President of America calls Putin out the bored student in the last row in the classroom, on the other hand, when Russia sends a letter to America saying, we will be willing to extradite Snowden, but only if you promise to take care of his human rights in custody and in court. It sounds like a parody. It's Russia writing that to America. So we are not witnessing a Cold War. We are witnessing a parody of what was the Cold War.
Danny, walk us through the decisions that two presidents of superpowers. Is it all about ego?
No, and I have to differ with my good friend Lily. I do think, although we are not witnessing the heydays with the real heat of the old Cold War, but unintentionally we can easily slide into a Cold War modality, and I'm not sure that the Cold War was only about ideology. It was about resources, it was about control, it was about carving the world into areas of influence and power and control. And I'm afraid this is what the Russians are trying to do, is actually reassert themselves as a superpower of the first class, which they have been actually slipping from that status for the last 20 years. But this Snowden issue is just an episode. It's just, I would say, the tip of the iceberg. It's an incidental issue that the Russians took advantage of to embarrass the United States. But this cannot cover for the clash in Eastern Europe, with the United States actually in Western Europe trying to enlarge NATO, trying to enlarge the European Union. And of course the Russians see it as an affront against them, as a zero-sum game against them. The same thing is on Iran. Libya, for instance, the Russians are still, quote-unquote, licking their wounds by losing Libya.
We'll get to that point,
Okay.
but I want to hear from you, Tal. Is that the result of the disappointment that Obama has from Putin?
It seems like Obama is, it's not playing a game, but, it's a risky territory because on the one hand, the United States citizens do not see Snowden as, you have a recent poll saying he's not a traitor, he's more of a whistleblower. And the United States is, is saying human rights and other things, but then hurting its own citizens' human rights with the NSA program. So it's not a completely understood what is Obama, what card is he playing. It seems to me that he has basically nothing to lose by, getting into this tension with Putin. Mm-hmm. If you look at the U.S.-China relationship, for example, there's much more to lose there. There's more things on the disagreement between those, two presidents, and yet Obama is not hurrying to waive and cancel meeting with the Chinese president.
While Tal is saying that it's not basically understood what Obama is gaining, what does Putin gains from that?
Well, I think both gain. In fact, I think America is gaining as well, and not only what Tal just specified. I think that this situation of one superpower is really bad and wrong for both for Russia and for United States of America. They need competition. They thrive on tension. They thrive on competition. Not good things have been happening to America since the collapse of the Soviet Union. In almost all walks of life. So I think they both, and we know from our domestic politics, yes. they both reinforce each other now, and they thrive on this crisis, which is real for the moment, but I don't think it's going anywhere into the Cold War.
And you see those lower level, Secretary of State and lower level keep meeting with each other. So it's not a disconnection at all. It's not a Cold War, really. It's just, just a game.
We'll talk about the strategy behind that. But Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower, received a political asylum in Russia. The information he revealed and the way it was published generated a discussion in the global press. Is Snowden a hero or a traitor? Let's view.
Over the last week, the global press had various views on NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden and whether his actions portray him as a hero or a villain. Andrew P. Napolitano, a former judge of the Supreme Court of New Jersey and current senior judicial analyst for Fox News, justified Snowden's actions, claiming they have brought the issue of government spying to the national headlines. There is a political wildfire burning in the land, and we should all be grateful to Snowden for igniting it. The fire eventually will consume the political derelictions of those who have abandoned their oaths to uphold the Constitution so they can sound tough back home. On the other hand, Charles Moore, former editor of the Daily Telegraph, believes that Snowden's actions have caused damage to his colleagues and to the intelligence community in general. First, he has broken his oath. He has betrayed colleagues. From now on, all contractors like himself will be seen as a suspect. He has also betrayed individual officers and agents. Disclosure also betrays allies. One of the positive developments in intelligence since September 11, 2011, has been the concept of dare to share. Countries which previously had little contact have seen the benefits of exchanging information. Now they will see its perils.
Danny, as a former diplomat, this case of the WikiLeaks and the Snowden case, how does that affect the diplomatic arena?
Well, very much so, because it sets the tone. And as they say, the tone makes the music, and if things will not change fairly quickly, we can get into a locked-up situation of, again, attitude of a zero-sum game. And I can tell you the worst-case scenario, in my mind, is something which could be a repetition of what happened in 1980. 1980, Moscow had the Olympic Games, and the Americans boycotted. It was President Carter boycotted the Olympic Games because of the former invasion of Soviet Union into Afghanistan. 1984, Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Of course, the Russians reciprocate, and that was, I think, one of the lowest ebbs of the...
But Obama was already asked about that specific point on
Sochi,
Friday
yes.
press conference.
Right.
And he said there is nothing in the plan for that, and there's not going to be any boycott of the Olympic Games. So
but you see, the
this issue
as
is
a blogger, this leak, how do you view that the U.S. action against Snowden?
Definitely, Snowden leak is so important to the development of relationship between the state and its people, because it showed everybody what's going on behind the scene. I'm sure it hurt for Obama, and Obama administration is now trying to recap and build, convince the public that he's doing it for their own good and that he's not spying. However, data about the use of drug is leaking, to the Drug and Enforcement Institution from the data that the government collects. So it worries, and the Obama administration...
It worries the Soviets so much that they said that they're going to go back to typing machines.
Yeah. No, I want to say something about both societies, in fact, because we've been talking about the leaders, and of course it's the important aspect of it. But if we look at American society after Occupy Wall and all this need and demand of transparency,
yes.
That came and fell on a fertile ground.
And the people's right to know.
And the people's right to know. And power to the people, power of information, not, not the literal translation of it. And it's happening the same.
We have to go forward to the punch.
Oh.
Every week we ask our guests to give us one final punch, this week's knockout or sidekick, and we'll start with you, Tal. The arena is yours.
So I'm looking forward for Tzipi Livni meeting with Saeb Arikat in Jerusalem in a few days. And I noticed that Martin Indyk is going to join them, but Secretary Kerry is not coming. He's busy with Russia. But the big question that hovers over all this negotiation is how much the United States is going to pressure the parties. Because if you ask the parties, they don't want to go anywhere with that. And Kerry is not a hands-off type of guy. However, he's not in the talks this week, and I wonder how much he's going to be behind the scene, putting pressure on the sides. So that's interesting to see, to watch.
Yes, and the pressure also comes from the European Union against the settlements. Your punch.
Well, I think there was a real faux pas by the European bureaucracy, the Commission, to impose economic sanctions on Israel and actually pre-decide and prejudge the fate of the territories under question, Judea and Samaria or the West Bank. It is illegal what they did, and also immoral. Illegal because there is an agreement. The Oslo B agreement from 1995 between Israel and the Palestinians specifically says that the fate and the future of these territories will be decided by consensus among the two parties, direct negotiations, and the EU is an underwriter. They are a signatory to that very agreement. So they are not only violating their own agreement, they make also a political mistake. It is also immoral because I checked to see that they signal out Israel. And why do they signal out Israel? They have to explain. But there are other territories under dispute. For instance, northern Cyprus is occupied by Turkey. Turkey is building settlements there. The EU is not touching that. The EU is not touching Kashmir. The EU is not touching Abkhazia, which is occupied by Russia. Why do they single out Israel? It's hypocrisy, it's political mistake, and I think they should rescind it.
Thank you. Danny, Lily, your punch.
I want to take us back to Russia and talk about the homophobia and the campaign against the gay community. I think it came in a very interesting times because even the Pope just declared that who am I to judge the gay people? And same-sex marriage is accepted and recognized by more and more states. So Russia kind of stands alone. Again, it's part of this empirical urge to recreate the old ancient glory and old ancient values. The problem is that whatever happens there has to be taken in the broader context of human rights, and it, unlike in Vegas, what happens in Russia doesn't stay in Russia anymore.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Tal Schneider, Danny Ayalon, and Lily Galili. Thank you for watching the Press Arena. For more inside news, log on to www.i24news.tv. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, be sure to join us next week. Good night from Jaffa.